Okay, children are excellent teachers. Today I'd like to share 3 life lessons that we can learn from them. Speech project number 4 from the Professional Speakers Manual, a professional seminar titled, Children Are Great Teachers, 15 to 20 minutes. And let's welcome Carolyn.
I'm sure we've all heard before that from children we can learn many life lessons. I happen to have 8 children. I've been able to learn a lot of life lessons. Today I'd like to share life lessons that I've learned from this one of my sons, Jacob. He's 3 years old in this picture. I happened to be at the mall and I stopped in at one of those kitty candids, just randomly decided to have photos taken of him. What are some adjectives just by looking at this picture that you might think?
Adorable. Precious.
Sweet.
Innocent. Angelic. Angelic.
Jacob sees the world as his entire playground. He sees people as all of his friends. Anywhere he went, he'd go up to people and tell them exactly what he was thinking, how wonderful he thought the items in the produce section of the grocery store were. If he had an idea, he'd just go up and tell him what he thought. It kind of took people by surprise, because usually kids that are 3 years old are thinking that you're their mother, but you're really not, and so you're kind of a little bit worried. But in Jacob's case, they were all his friends. He didn't care who it was, he wanted to share things with them. He has a curious mind, always wanting to find answers for things. In fact, he's my go-to guy when anything breaks down in the house. And just recently, we had one of those bathroom fans that when you turned it on, it was like a roar of an airplane in the house. So my older son, who's 10 years older, thought he would take matters in his own hands and fix this roaring motor of a fan in the bathroom. After a little bit of time, probably an hour or 2 went by, and Nick had not fixed his fan. He said to Jacob, "Can you help me out here?" To which within minutes, Jacob said, "Well, you have it upside down. No wonder it's not working." Jacob, as I said, loves adventure. He wants to be a pilot someday. When he was in junior high, he and my son Nick decided they were going to go to Kauai on a vacation. They'd happened to meet a girl, a BYU student, who lived in Kauai, and she invited him to come and visit. And naturally, who wouldn't want to go to Kauai on a vacation? It was springtime, not many weeks before their plan was to leave on this trip. Our son Nick was going to go with them until he decided to go to India that summer. Now, if you're 14 years old and just finishing up 8th grade, do most of you think about going on a trip all by yourself to the island of Kauai? Didn't face Jacob. The only problem was he needed to figure out how on earth was he going to buy that ticket to Kauai. We happened that spring in May to go and visit my oldest son while they went to Hawaii on their anniversary trip. It was my son, Jacob, our younger son, Elisha, and me. When Jeff and his wife came back from Hawaii, they made the most delicious grilled corn. They'd found it at a roadside stand in Hawaii when they were there. That was the idea that Jacob had. I'm going to start a roadside business myself of grilled corn. That's exactly what he did. Jake's barbecue corn. At first it was called barbecue corn. The name was a little bit in development. Eventually it became Jake's grilled corn. He developed a special seasoning, figured out exactly what the cost was going to be for this item, and stood by the roadside, waved that sign day after day to earn his money to go to Kauai. He really only had about 2.5 weeks. He determined which day he was going to leave and exactly how much those tickets were going to cost. Every day he was on the computer watching ticket prices. He knew how many ears of corn at $3 a piece he had to sell to get that ticket to Kauai. it was to the countdown. Only days were left, and he was getting really nervous. And of course, as his mother, I'm thinking, well, you know, Jacob, maybe just go later on in the summer. They give you a little more time to earn a little bit more money for this trip, or maybe go next summer when Nick can actually go with you. Now, how many mothers out there are ready to let their 15-year-old, does he look like he's 14 in that picture? Let their 14-year-old go on a trip by themselves to a family they've never met before, to a place they've never been before, just to have an adventure. But Jacob was determined. The day came. He knew this was the day that he had to buy his ticket to head out and be on schedule. He knew exactly how many ears of corn to purchase, that had to be purchased that day, so that he could buy that ticket that very day. There it was. Have you ever had that corn? Nacho Libre style corn. There he is, on his way. He did it. He looked up that morning before he left. Ticket prices had gone up $300 that very day. Had he waited, it would have taken him a few more weeks to earn the money to go on that trip. There he is on his way to Kauai. He wanted to swim with turtles. He wanted to learn how to surf. It just so happened this girl that my son Nick had met and the family that he was staying with, she was a nanny for Laird Hamilton. I don't know how much you know about surfing, but Laird Hamilton is the guy that is famous for the towing people out to surf those giant waves. That's who Jacob was going to go hang out with. He learned paddle boarding. Is anybody else with him? It was Jacob by himself. He swam with the turtles. He's got his scuba mask on there. Snorkeled. Doesn't that sum up a 14-year-old's adventure? One that he created himself. Figured out how to make it happen. Figured out where to stay. He never told me anything about being scared to death about going on this trip. He was determined. He'd planned it. He'd envisioned what he wanted to experience. He made it happen. He came back from that trip and he said, you know, Mom, I had so much fun. Next year, I want to go to Tahiti. What was I going to say? It just so happened we knew a family in Tahiti. We'd lived in Switzerland and knew this family, the mother of this family, since she was an infant. She'd married a young man from Tahiti and she lived there. So naturally, I think we texted her and said, do you mind if Jacob comes and spends some time with your family this summer? Sure. Now, a ticket to Tahiti is a little more than a ticket to Hawaii, so he knew he needed to start early on preparing to have enough money for this ticket to Tahiti. And now it was fall. The corn season was just ending, so selling grilled corn wasn't really going to work out for him. So he thought, I know, I'm going to sell hot chocolate, hot cocoa by the side of the road. And it was going to be imported hot cocoa. So he got online and figured out how he could import milk and chocolates from Europe, and he could create this recipe and get his stand out there on the side of the road and have his sign about hot cocoa for sale. It just so happened that winter, it was so warm. No one really wanted hot cocoa. And with each new business idea, it meant new items he had to get, the special cups, the special ingredients. It was all a business opportunity in figuring out what his cost of goods was. So he decided, all right, hot cocoa's really not working out so well. Maybe I'll do ice cream, homemade ice cream. He figured out how to make a delicious chocolate mint chip ice cream with his own mint leaves, strawberries and cream ice cream. That was around Valentine's Day. I don't know if you've ever tried to be a purveyor of ice cream. It's not an easy task because you've got to freeze that thing in days in advance. You've got to make your ice cream, have it set up, and that really was not, the return on that wasn't really panning out as well either. So he thought, I know, crepes on the side of the road. Crepes, we'll do crepes and strawberries and Nutella, and this is going to be really great. But again, the cost of goods, the new items, the getting your customers to want to have crepes as they're driving down the road. It was May, and he had not gotten very far on this ticket to Tahiti and the cost that it was going to take for him to get there. But corn season had happened again, so he went back to his standby business of corn. But he had plans to leave the middle of June, and this was the beginning of June, and he was barely on his way. Now, if you were him, or you were his mother, what would you say to him? Well, you know, Jacob, this summer, you don't necessarily have to go this summer. I mean, this is a great idea and all, and you've learned a lot from these different businesses, but maybe just this summer you can just work all summer, save the money, and maybe next summer you can go to Tahiti. But if you're Jacob, do you think that's the plan you're willing to accept? Days went by. He was really starting to get a little discouraged how this could possibly work out. And then a customer came by, one of his frequent customers, and he said, now Jacob, I go to Tahiti all the time. I have so many frequent flyer miles. How much does a ticket to Tahiti cost? How about if I give you my frequent flyer miles and a ticket to Tahiti and you pay me in cash? Not only that, you don't have to pay me all up in cash up front. When you come back from your trip, we can just settle the difference and you can pay me for the rest at that time. Was this the plan he had considered of how he was going to get to Tahiti? Did he do it? And I, Jacob, dwelt in a tent. That was his bedroom for the summer. This family lived in a small bungalow. Perhaps you've imagined what they might look like. This was the kitchen. Now imagine if you're the mother and your daughter is going from Switzerland, living in Tahiti, and this is her kitchen. This is where Jacob spent the summer in a tent in Tahiti, fulfilling his dream. Not only did he go to Tahiti, it just so happened my son Nick had met another girl. She was from Bora Bora. Now, if you're near Tahiti, are you going to pass up the opportunity to go visit Bora Bora? Age 15, by yourself? I've never been to Bora Bora. I've never met those people that he stayed with in Bora Bora. But did that stop Jacob? No. Not only did he go to Tahiti, meet this wonderful family, he went to Bora Bora for a week, and he swam with sharks. Oh, oops. Maybe that's the last picture. I thought I had one more. What I've learned from Jacob, anything's possible. You don't have to listen to the naysayers that say, well, maybe it's not really a goal you need to achieve this year, or this month, or this week. Make the goal, decide you're going to achieve that goal, and trust it just can happen. You can have goals that you're all by yourself and achieve. You don't have to have other people with you. Determination, confidence. Did age matter to Jacob? Did a different language? He wanted to go to Tahiti because he wanted to speak French. And he also had decided that because he wanted to be a pilot one day, he thought he would like to be a pilot for Tahitian Air. So he might as well go to Tahiti and check out Tahitian Airlines, Tahiti, the people of Tahiti. I'd like to show you one more picture of my son, Jacob. How many people are running around that track with him? This is a track meet. Have any of you ever been to a track meet? Lots of kids, lots of running. How many people are with Jacob? He was the last one on the track that day. He ran the distance. If he's the last one on the track, is he the fastest? You can tell the sun's setting. Have you ever felt like you were, Jacob, alone. You didn't meet your goal as quickly as you wanted, but he's still there. He's still running the race. He finished that day. Did he worry more about what people thought of him? About how fast he was going, if he was going fast enough? He focused on finishing the race. Sometimes you look at our lives, they're not quite what we'd anticipated, but we learn from kids. Dream. Go for it. A door will open. Finish what you've set out to do. He's my hero. I'm grateful for his example.